What's going on, guys? Ted from Immersion here, and I apologize, my hair is a disaster and I might seem a little monotone here, but I'm tired. It's hot out, it's gross, but that's besides the point. It's time for the DM's Guild Spotlight. I did this once last week on Matt Mercer's College of the Maestro Bard, and I said I was going to try to do this every week, and this is a little bit delayed, but I did actually get a suggestion from a viewer on one of my other videos, which I want to point out to you guys. If there's something you want me to review or spotlight, whether you created it or you saw it and you really liked it on the DM's Guild, message me, whether it be in an email, on social media, or just comments on this video. Go ahead and do it. So, Justin Halifax, on one of my other videos, said, can you please review the blood magic thing from the DM's Guild? So, let me jump over to that. So here we are in the DM's Guild. This is Blood Magic 5e by Joshua Rainick here. You can see this is another one where you do not have to pay to get access to the PDF. There's a suggested contribution of $1.95 and a whole bunch of information about it here, and you can see some of the other products that he's done as well. And there's a bunch of reviews and things down here. I'm not going to go too much into that. You may recognize Blood Magic, though, because this was spotlighted on one of the, I think it was the March Unearthed Arcana, where they were doing DM's Guild spotlights. This was one of the spotlighted articles, so I wanted to draw this to your guys' attention. I'm not going to go too much into everything in detail, in case you guys want to pick this up for yourself and you want to suggest, provide a monetary contribution for this. I did, so I have a copy of this, so I'm going to run through this and we will just kind of talk about what it is and my thoughts on it. So what you're going to get in Blood Magic is, I believe it's 4 new class archetypes, a new race, I guess a sub-race, magic weapons, and new spells. General opinion, I always liked the concept of blood mages. There was a really cool prestige class in 3.5 that was a blood mage. You could actually jump into one creature that had blood in their body and erupt out of another creature like a certain distance away, and the bloody eruption from their body did massive damage. It was crazy. So these, you are obviously going to get a couple, you're going to get a sorcerer and a wizard, but you're also going to get a barbarian and a fighter, which are pretty interesting. These are, again, very well themed for Ravenloft, Barovia type campaigns. Blood Magic fits well in there. The half-spawn race fits as well, as do the weapons. The spells, we'll get into that. That's like, out of all of the DM Guild created stuff and homebrew stuff, spells are the one that me personally, I'm the most wary about. I feel like people can do really good jobs on magic items, really good jobs on classes, but I feel like spells are one thing that's really hard to balance. But we'll go through that as well. So I'm going to skip through a bunch of this. Right off the bat, you're going to have why any of these classes, why they would become adventurers, generic characteristics about them, so you can kind of get an idea if you're role-playing one. A little conversation here in this sidebar all about what is blood magic, what character themes and races fit that as well, alignment typically for the different archetypes, religion for the different archetypes, and suggested backgrounds for the different archetypes, and suggested races. So, next up here is the Barbarian Primal Path of the Blood Rage Savage. So, I feel like you get a little bit of ranger stuff. I will say this, I don't feel like this is overpowered in any way. It might even be a tiny bit underpowered. This is one of the newer additions to the supplement as well. So, you get a blood rage when you're raging, or when you inflict wounds. You can inflict wounds upon yourself, spend hit dice. That's the big theme, because it's blood magic. You're spending hit dice is what powers a lot of these things. You're spending hit dice as a bonus action while raging. 2 hit dice. Choose a creature within 10 feet. You can just deal extra damage, an extra d6 damage to that person when you hit them with a melee attack. If they drop to 0, your rage ends, or you attack another creature, the blood rage ends. So basically, blood rage is you expending 2 hit dice to get a limited form of hex or hunter's mark. You're dealing an extra d6 damage, but you don't get to transfer it when the creature dies. I think perhaps it should, but the thematics of it doesn't really make sense. You get advantage on tracking and information, intelligence checks, similar to a ranger. This is kind of like one of the paladin features. When a creature moves and ends its turn within 20 feet of you, you can use your reaction to move half your speed towards it. You also enter a rage as part of doing this, which is a nice feature to be able to enter the rage as a reaction to something else. And at 14, when you hit with reckless attack, each other creature within 5 feet of you takes damage equal to your rage damage bonus. That's not that overpowered. The max damage rage damage bonus ever does is 4. However, it doesn't say that you don't deal it to allies, which I guess would make sense if you're in like a blood rage. So that's the Barbarian archetype. It's alright. I'm not a huge fan. I still think Bear Totem Barbarian wins out over most. But next up is the fighter archetype, the Blood Thrall. A little background on this is basically you were a thrall to a vampire or some sort of creature that creates thralls, and you have retained some of that power in the process. So at 3rd level, whenever you hit a living creature with a melee attack, you deal an extra d8. If they're large or small, they have to make a saving throw, and if they fail the saving throw, you get temporary hit points equal to the damage you did. Not too bad, but the fact that it's every time you hit a living creature, you just deal a base extra d8 damage, no matter what, with a melee weapon, that's pretty powerful, especially if you are a fighter and you're doing 3, sometimes 4 attacks. That's an extra 3 to 4 d8 every turn that you're dealing. And if they're larger or smaller, each time you hit them, they're going to have to make a saving throw, or you get temporary hit points, which, again, you know, temporary hit points don't stack and add up, but if the extra damage you rolled on that extra d8 was 1, 1, 2, 8, well, now you're at 8 temporary hit points due to your 4th attack. You can use it. I'm sorry, I forgot, because I can do this all the time. I get ahead of myself. You can use this feature twice between rests and only once a turn. You have to finish a rest. The die becomes a d10 at 10 and a d12 at 18. I guess that's the whole feature, the Blood Drinker feature, not just parts of it, like the doing the strength saving throw. At 7th, this is kind of what I was talking about. You get a Dark Gift, which is based on whoever was your kind of master who created the Thrall. You still have some of their power, and it gives you the ability to do stuff. Again, I won't go through some of these. I'll just highlight some of the ones I think are really good. Dark Vision on yourself at will without material components. When a target fails its strength saving throw against that Blood Drinker feature we just talked about, you gain an additional 5 temporary hit points, or dash as a bonus action, or ones that call out to me. But you only get 1, so you need to choose wisely. At 10th level, when you use Second Wind, rather than doing Second Wind's second level fighter feature, or a 1st level fighter feature, you get 1d10 plus your fighter level in hit points. This you can choose to instead get 2d6 plus your fighter level, and at 18 it can go up to 2d8, as long as you do this while you're in darkness. So it's a potential to have a higher healing from that. 15, creatures have disadvantage on your saving throw against the Blood Drinker feature for the temporary hit points. Whenever you gain temporary hit points, select 1 Dark Gift for every 5 points you receive. You benefit from the chosen Dark Gift until you no longer have temporary hit points. So you can get potentially several of these based on how that goes. And at 18, you can do the dodge action as a bonus action, but you need to finish a rest after you do it. The Sorcerer origin is, it's just, again, it's an interesting concept. I feel like it could get a little complicated because it adds another, I don't know, I guess I want to kind of call it a currency. Another thing for you to manage on top of your spells and your sorcery points. You're going to add another point system to this, so that could definitely get confusing for new players. You get guidance all the time. When you cast a divination spell, you can choose a number of creatures equal to 1 plus the spell's level. They get a +1 on their initiative checks. Lasts until you take a short or long rest, or until you get knocked out. You can only use this once a rest. And here you go, at 6th level, when you drop a creature to 0 hit points, with a melee or spell attack, you forge a life spark with their fleeting soul. Once per turn, you can expend a life spark to gain a benefit, depending on the creature's nature, which we'll get into in a second. You can hold a number of life sparks equal to your Constitution modifier. At the end of a long rest, any unspent ones are lost. And it basically has the same. Any ones that have DCs have the same DC as your spells. So basically, all the different enemy types, Aberration, Dragon, Fey, Beast, Monstrosity, they all do something different. So you're going to kill a creature, you're going to get one of these life sparks, and you can hold life sparks up to your con mod, and you lose them after a rest. Aberration, bonus action, spend it, get 2 to your AC until the start of your next turn. Celestials, one of the really good ones. Expend a Celestial life spark, but that means you have to kill a Celestial creature. As a bonus action to gain resistance to all damage until the end of your next turn. Fiend, expend a life spark as a bonus action to gain resistance to fire damage until the end of your next turn. Giant, advantage on strength throws. Humanoid, get augury without spell components. A monstrosity is, you can spend a monstrosity life spark as a bonus action to gain temporary hit points equal to 1d6 plus half your sorcerer level. So that's a significant amount of temporary hit points. At 14, at the end of a long rest, you can expend 1 more hit dice. Instead of gaining hit dice, you can prevent 1 life spark from going away. So you can still spend your hit dice as normal for healing, and expend an extra 1 and keep it so that you don't lose 1 of your life sparks. I guess if you did find a very specific rare enemy, this would be something you'd want to hang on to. At 14th level, you possess at least 1 life spark. At the end of a short rest, you and 1 other creature within 10 feet can regain hit points as if you had expended 1 hit die once per long rest. And shaped life spark, when you expend a life spark, you can benefit from any. Now that you have a life spark, when you expend it, you can benefit from any of the list, not whatever. It's not, you're no longer tied to the enemy type. You can gain access to whichever one you want. And last up is the Wizard Arcane Tradition Blood Magic. However, I will point out that there is 2 versions, and at first I was like, why would you include 2 versions? But version 1 is the, like, we'll call it the OG version. So based on feedback that the creator had while making this, it seemed a little too powerful. I'll give you my opinion on that when we get there. So he said, you know what, I'm not going to nix it. I'm going to come up with a completely new version. This version. However, then he found out that the original version that he had come up with was the one that Mike Merles and Chris Lindsay had featured on the Unearthed Arcana article, and people were going to look for that, and it was gone. So he like quickly put in a new update so you have both. Personally, I like the first one better. I don't think it's that overpowered. I could see with some healing it could be, but I think it's, I don't know, I think it's really well done. This one I actually do really like a lot. The other ones so far I've kind of been iffy on. This one I do like. So what do you get? Blood Savant. Proficiency in medicine. Double proficiency when using medicine skill. And whenever you use the Arcane Recovery feature, you regain a hit die. That's when you take, as a wizard, a short rest, and you can gain up to half of your wizard level spells back. You also gain 1 hit die, which will come into play in just a sec. So at 2nd level, you can inflict wounds upon yourself to gain blood points. Again, this will be giving you another point system to manage on top of your spells, although at least you don't have sorcery points to manage as well in this instance. So you inflict a minor wound and you just lose a hit die. You expend a hit die, it's gone, and you gain 1 point. Or you can expend 2 hit die to give yourself a severe wound, and you lose 2 hit dice and gain 2 blood points. While you possess 1 or more blood points, you have the following features. You have AC equal to 13 plus your con mod, and you have advantage on your first death saving throw. So that's just as long as you have a singular blood point, you have that permanently. And then you can choose to expend them to do various different things. Blood Agony, expend a blood die. It does, when you do damage, it does an extra d6 for each blood point, up to a maximum of 5d6. So it's kind of like a smite almost, with a melee or a spell attack. So you have to actually roll for it. It's not just like an auto thing. And then at like a saving throw based thing. And then at 14, those d6s go up to d8s. So it basically is a way for a wizard to kind of get a smite, essentially, as long as you have these blood points. Or expend a blood point as an action to focus your awareness to reveal living creatures. So any beast, giant, humanoid within 60 feet that's not behind total cover, you know where they are, and you can identify the type of creature. Or expend a blood point as bonus action to gain a bonus to Constitution saving throws that lasts for a minute, equal to your intelligence modifier. So a bonus to your con saves equal to intelligence modifier, which is almost like Blade Song-esque, which is pretty cool, and it gives you a bonus on keeping your concentration spells up. You can use this twice, but afterwards you need to finish a short or long rest. At the end of a long rest, any blood points you had are lost. At 6th level, big one, which is kind of why I like this, resistance to psychic and fire damage just permanently. Whenever you cast a first level spell or a spell of first level or higher that does psychic or fire damage, it causes a sort of storm sorceress wave of pain around you. Creatures of your choice within 10 feet suffer psychic damage equal to half your psychic or fire damage you choose, equal to half your wizard level, which is awesome because this gives, like, again, another reason I'm a little partial to wizards over sorcerers, so I really I like this. That's pretty powerful. But I don't think it's OP because you are losing access to hit dice and you don't have healing as a wizard. Also at 6th level, you can manipulate the blood flow, even if it's not your own. When you reduce a creature to 0 hit points with a melee or spell attack, you gain a blood point. Makes sense. When an attack scores a critical hit against a living creature within 10 feet, you can expend 1 blood point as a reaction. Until the end of your next turn, you gain advantage on attack rolls against that creature. When an attack scores a critical... Okay, so it's on whoever was critically hit, you're gaining advantage on the attack against them. And Wellspring of Life, when you make a death save... This I really like, because this is... I've been in this situation where you're rolling death saving throws, and anything that can help is greatly appreciated. So on a 19 to 20, you regain 19 or 20 on a death saving throw. You get a d6 hit points instead of 1, and at 14, it's 18 to 20. And again, it's still a d6. Inheritor of Blood is the 10th level feature. Should you drop to 0 hit points but not die outright, you can make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. If you succeed, one willing creature within 30 feet can expend 1 hit die, and you regain a number of hit points equal to the result. Each time you use this, increase the DC by 5. When you finish a short or long rest, it's reset to 10. So this is similar to kind of a Barbarian Relentless Rage, where if you go down to 0, you can make Constitution saving throws to get back up. But instead of that, you're making a Constitution saving throw to allow a buddy to spend a hit die, preferably a Barbarian or a fighter, or somebody with a D10, to gain your hit points back. And I guess this is your body being able to draw the natural blood of other creatures to it. And then at 10, you also get Soul Burn. As a bonus action on your turn, you can expend blood points to try to create an extra spell slot. For each blood point you spend 1d6 and consult the following table. You cannot create a spell of higher. So, right off the bat, you can't get a first level spell back for 1 blood point. It has to be at least 2. You need a roll of 7 or 9 on 2d6 to be able to get a first level spell slot back. You can see it goes all the way up to needing a 24 plus on a roll of 5 hit dice. So, or on a roll to get a 5th level spell. So you're going to need a minimum, you'd have to roll all 6s on 4 hit dice, or, try to get a combination of 24 plus on 5. And then at 14, you get Blood Soul Magus, which is when you inflict a minor or severe wounds through your blood magic, you basically just get more points. So what was originally a minor wound gave you 1 point and now gives you 2, and a severe, which used to give you 2, now gives you 4. So that's Blood Magic version 1, the one that I'm very partial to, the one that I really like, that I could see myself actually playing in a campaign if the opportunity arose. So let's talk about version 2. So there are some similar stuff. Blood Sivan is the same. Blood magic is similar, however, you can't inflict minor or severe wounds anymore. You just inflict a wound, and it doesn't actually do damage to you. It doesn't expend your hit dice. It created what they call a hemophilic wound to gain access to blood points, and the blood points now are based on your level. So you can see in this table here, if you're level 2 to 4, it gives you 2, all the way up to level 6 blood points for 17 to 20. And you cannot inflict another wound until you finish a long rest. And basically, you have this open wound, and if you get healed, basically, it gets staunched. While the wound does not deal damage or break concentration, it's hemophilic. Once you staunch the flow of blood, you weaken the connection to the weave. When you inflict the hemophilic wound, you get access to blood points. So any form of healing staunches it. When you gain 1 or more hit points, you lose 1 blood point as well. And you no longer have any blood points, the hemophilic wound heals. You learn blood rites, 2 blood rituals under this list that'll be below. And when you gain a level in the wizard class, you can choose one of the blood rites you know and replace it with another one. At 6th, when you roll damage for a spell, you can reroll a number of damage dice up to your constitution modifier. You must use the new result. You must finish a short or long rest to use this again. At 14th level, you can use it twice, but only once in the same turn. This is similar to... I think there's a sorcerer meta magic feature that does more or less the same thing. Blood Awakening, starting at 10th level. This is kind of cool. You can basically reinvigorate the blood in the dead corpse of an ally, or an enemy, I guess, if you wanted to, and cast Revivify using a wizard spell. The only thing it doesn't state is whether or not you get material. You have to use the material components associated with it. I assume so, but if not, that's even better. And Revivify isn't that powerful. It makes you... it's within 1 minute of the creature dying that you're able to resurrect them. And then at 14th level, you can do this. This is a pretty powerful feature. It's similar to a Hurl Through Hell or a Stunning Fist or whatever it is for a monk, Way of the Open Palm monk. But anyway, as an action, one creature within 30 feet must make a Constitution saving throw, taking 10d10 necrotic damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful. It has no effect on constructs, oozes, plants, and undead. And you have to finish a long rest before you can use it. And then these are the blood rites that you could choose from that we mentioned before. If it does not indicate a cost for a component, you can spend a blood point to cast it without a material component. Spend 2 blood points to cast a first level spell with a ritual tag. It still has to be cast as a ritual, but it doesn't use a spell slot. You can spend blood points to cast a spell that you prepare without expending a spell slot on your turn. It shows you what you need to do. Blood points up to 6 to cast a 4th level spell if you're level 17. You can spend 1 blood point and concentrate to gain proficiency in Constitution saving throws, as if concentrating on a spell. When you cast a wizard cantrip, you can spend 1 blood point as a bonus action to gain 1d4 plus 4 temporary hit points. When casting a wizard cantrip, expend a blood point to add your proficiency bonus to the damage, which is nice. These are solid bonuses here, these last 3. Because according to this, expend a blood point and concentrate to gain proficiency in Constitution saving throws. That lasts, I guess, until you lose concentration. Right? I mean, you can't cast any other concentration spells in the meantime, but... you're going to spend 1 blood point and concentrate to gain resistance to psychic damage while you invoke this blood. Right? Psychic damage does not cause you to break concentration. I still like the other one better. This one's not bad, and I see the refinements that he made to try to make it less OP, but I still like the original. So, next up is the half-spawn subrace. This is a subrace typically of dwarves, elves, gnomes, or halflings. Essentially what you're going to do is take the main race and replace the subrace feature with this. Basically, think Blade from the Marvel series. Essentially, right toward something happened to basically make your parent a vampire, but you are only affected minutely, so that you are only like half vampire essentially. So the subrace features are: you get a strength score increases by 1, you get a bite attack, which can replace 1 attack if you have multiple, and any damage you do, you gain temporary hit points equal to the damage dealt. You have 60 feet of dark vision. If you already had dark vision from your granted class, you gain 120 feet of dark vision, but you also gain the weaknesses of a vampire. Not to the extent of a vampire, but at least to some extent. If you enter a residence that you weren't invited into, you have disadvantage on attack rolls and charisma checks until you leave. If you end your turn in running water, you have disadvantage on attack rolls and strength checks, and disadvantage on attack rolls and wisdom skill checks with perception if you're in direct sunlight. But if you go to 0 hit points, unless you take radiant damage, you're instead dropped to 1 once per rest. And you can communicate through speech simple ideas to bats, rats, and wolves. And that's it. There's a little sidebar here where if you were a half-spawn human, you basically gain proficiency in one type of skill, not like any skill. You have a couple of options, and your strength, con, and dex go up by 1, and then you get dark vision, bite, and then all of these sub-features there. And then Tiefling and Dragonborn, it basically says their heritage is so strong that it basically never happens. Here you can see the spells. There's not too many. I will go over these relatively quickly. Blood Quill is basically you kill a wizard or spellcaster and you dip a quill in their blood, and you use it to try to copy a spell into your spell book. Once this quill absorbs the spell, you may take time to transcribe it into your spell book. Quill crumbles into dust at the end of the duration, or once you copy the spell into the spell book. So basically you're getting access to just an additional spell per this spell's casting, if you have a spell book. Blood Rage is you just increase damage to a creature. Whenever they take damage, increase the damage step up. So it's like it starts as a D4. If they get hit, it goes to a D6, and then to a D8, up to a D12. If they drop to 0, you can use a bonus action to put it on somebody else. And he did bring in this concept of blood, I'm sorry, blood magic components into the spells. So that one, when you cast the spell, you must expend 3 hit dice plus an additional 1 hit die for every slot above 3rd at the end of the duration. Gain 1 level exhaustion. This is not required for the use of these spells, but I think I probably would because I like the concept of it. I like the negative side of blood magic. Boiling blood. There's a couple of these similar ones. If you attempt to boil the blood within the target, if they have blood, they make a Constitution saving throw. If they fail, this is again fairly powerful. They're poisoned per the condition and can take 2d6 fire damage as their blood literally begins to boil. Poisoned by the spell, must make a creature poison, must make a Constitution saving throw at the end of each of its turns. On a failed save, it takes 2d6 fire damage. If they succeed 3 times, the spell ends. If they fail 3 times, they continue to take 2d6 damage every turn for up to a minute. 3 successes and 3 failures either end it or continue it. Doesn't have to be continuous failures, continuous successes. Caustic Wound, I like these. These are reactionary based attacks, which I really like. When you're damaged by a creature with a slashing or piercing damage, you basically infuse your blood with acid blood, similar to like a xenomorph. One creature within a 10-foot cone must make a dex saving throw or take 2d6 acid damage on a failed or half on a successful. And you can upcast that. Crimson Blade. This is a bonus action. You're essentially making a scimitar from blood in your body, which I like. It's a really cool concept. This also pulls the blood magic as well. If you let go of the blade, it splatters blood in a 5-foot radius, and the spell ends. Each other creature in the radius must make a dex saving throw or take a d6 necrotic. If you're wielding it as a weapon and you hit with it, it does 46 necrotic, and the creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become frightened, and run away. 2 hit dice to use it, 2 additional hit dice for every slot above. I feel like it makes sense that they'd be frightened. You are hitting them literally with just a blade made of your own blood. It's pretty disgusting. Reaping Strike is one of the last ones here. Reaction when you take when you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack and it's a crit. So you crit somebody with a melee weapon attack. You deal an extra d6 damage and regain hit points equal to the damage, to the total damage. So you're going to get a lot of health back potentially, depending on how high you crit. And lastly, we have a couple of magic items. Again, I'm not a huge fan of these items, but they have curses, which are cool. So the Blood Dreader is a +2 sword. Otherwise, it's normal. +2 weapons against non-living creatures. When you deal damage to a living creature with this blade, you must succeed on a DC 15 Wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, you faint and fall unconscious. You can repeat the saving throw at the end of each turn, ending the effect with a success. You can break the enchantment and it just becomes basically just a +1 sword with nothing else. Blood Leech, any sword, is a +1 sword. If you attack using this weapon at the end of the turn, if you did not hit at least one target, Blood Leech deals d10 necrotic damage to you. This can be avoid resistances. Until the end of your next turn, the next attack you make deals an extra 2d6 points of necrotic damage to the first target it hits. Now this is ambiguous because I'm not sure if you have to take the damage to then deal extra damage. It doesn't really word it that well. It says if you don't hit, you take damage, but then until the end of your next turn, the next attack you hit does 2d6. So just do that all the time, and only if you don't hit anybody does it deal you the damage. I'm not exactly sure. The potion of, I'm going to go with Cruor. Basically, it's just a potion that gives you hit dice back, which I really like the concept of. You can see the rarity, and when consumed, the liquid appears as coagulated blood, thick and syrupy. You regain expended hit dice determined on the rarity shown on the table. Once consumed, further potions of Cruor have no effect until you finish a long rest. I also saw somebody made potions of mana, which were basically similar to this, that helped you regain spell slots. Kind of like the concept of that. And lastly is the Sanguine Blade. It's a +2 weapon. Functions, rolls made against living creatures. This is a cursed sword that once drawn, it will not allow the wielder to sheathe the blade until it spills blood. Furthermore, when you deal damage to a living creature with the blade, you must succeed on a DC 15 Wisdom saving throw or continue the attack until the creature drops to 0 hit points or you are unable to reach the creature to make a melee attack against it. While unsheathed, the wielder cannot benefit from a short or long rest, and you can release the sword of its curse as normal. Afterwards, it just becomes a +1 sword with no other magical properties. So, anyway guys, that is the Blood Magic DM Spotlight. That was a little bit longer than I thought, because holy crap, I've been going for a half an hour talking about this. A lot longer than I thought for a Spotlight video, but I guess I went pretty in-depth. Let me know what you guys think. Are you going to pick this up? Did you already pick it up? Do you like it? Do you think things are overpowered? Let me know what you think. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next time.